Okay, I'll do it first. So if you asked me this question a couple of years ago, I would say it was more like a concept, right? At least for video platforms, 2 years ago, in the beta version of DLive, when we were launched on the Steam blockchain, DLive has a built-in video playing support for uploaded videos and the post broadcast. We tried to implement IPFS to host all the videos. However, it didn't work out well. Most of our users experience lagging or sometimes the video is not even playable. Now with the solution that BTFS provided, we're able to see a better result in terms of user experience. Um, that means everything, especially to app developers like DLive. We can tell that the distributed storage services have been developed really fast in the past 2 years.
Yes. So, Justin, could you go next?
Sure. Yeah, so as Charles said, I think if you'd asked a few years ago, I would have said that distributed storage was sort of an idea ahead of its time. The projects in the space have been around for many years, but usually with pretty limited success. And the reason for that has been that making it work is pretty hard when you consider challenges like network churn, where hosts are leaving and entering the network very frequently. Bandwidth asymmetry, where your upload might be much smaller than your download rate, and the ability of people to free ride on the system or like deceive you into saying I've stored these things when in fact they have not. The solutions that have been proposed have been to solve network churn by adding redundancy or adding error correction code, so that like as BTFS does, you can break a file into many small pieces, distribute them broadly, and then have codes to reconstruct the whole file if anything is lost. That's a pretty good algorithmic magic trick to deal with network churn. It can also help to a certain extent with bandwidth asymmetry, because you can be sure with some probability that some of the hosts that have pieces will have good uplinks, or you can use the network upstream connectivity as a signal in terms of how you distribute those chunks. And then the last problem is around free riding or deception. And I think that's the piece that fell into place the latest. And so I think that the solution there is with blockchains and cryptocurrencies, you can create incentive systems where you don't have to rely on people to altruistically store things. You can make it so that there's an economic incentive for them to do that. And in terms of storage deception, there's also been a lot of progress coming up with proofs like proof of data possession, proof of retrievability, proof of replication. Like all these things make it much more difficult for a bad actor to sort of poison the well by claiming to store something, earning tokens or coins, and then not actually living up to the promise.
Yes, great point. So Eric, it's your turn.
Sure. So this is a great question. I believe many projects in the past have attempted to solve the fundamentals of distributed networking and even built fully functional distributed storage systems. We've gone past the initial breakthroughs of the fundamental principles and are now evolving into the era of decentralized and incentivized distributed storage space. So similarly, Bitcoin didn't get invented from day one. It took many years of research and effort into the fundamentals of e-money to materialize before blockchain technologies are born and being utilized in everyday lives. So what I believe in the next steps of decentralized storage is a truly fair and incentivized network to govern this space in order to push this to a bigger user adoption space and market. So BTFS is such a solution to provide a more flexible, cheaper, safer, and provides more privacy than traditional and even competitor products on the market. So I believe BTFS combine the aforementioned distributed fundamentals and blockchain technologies to achieve these goals and more exciting features and breakthroughs to be built on BTFS, in my opinion.
Yes, I believe so, and looking forward for that as well. So from the perspective of operations, product and media respectively, I was wondering what's the role that distributed storage plays in the blockchain industry, and what are the internal and external reasons for the birth of distributed storage? So we still go first with Charles, please.
Okay, no problem. So I think with blockchain technology, distributed storage becomes a solution to many app developers. Decentralization is the most important mission that app developers with blockchain technology can achieve, right? When it applies to storage solutions, no centralized party should be able to control the ownership of the content except for the owner of the content itself. Before the distributed storage solution was invented, to some users, having full ownership of the content is only possible by storing the content in the hard drive that they own. So you can see there is a need in the market for distributed storage, which is, I think, the reason for the birth of the distributed storage solutions.
Yeah, thanks for the answer. So Justin, would you like to share an idea?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that blockchains are very great tools for distributed consensus over very small data sets or medium-sized data sets, like ledgers, things like that. But they don't scale well to storing very large volumes of data like you need for high-resolution video, things like this. And so if you don't have distributed storage, then as a dApp developer, you are left with this dilemma. I can either have a pure decentralized solution, but where I can store very limited amounts of data, which basically rules out entire categories of application. You can't have a purely decentralized video app if you have to store it all on chain. Or you have to compromise and say, okay, this part of it will be pure and decentralized, and then this other part of it is going to compromise and decentralize. And that compromise means that you're vulnerable to attack. You have a single point of failure. Client-server sites can be blocked. And so you end up with something that's sort of a bastardization of the original intent of blockchains. So I think that decentralized solutions like distributed storage allow you to build all the classes of apps that you might want to without having to make that compromise.
Yeah, so Eric, what's your thoughts?
Operationally, I think distributed storage is definitely an important backbone for blockchain products. Echoing some of Justin's thoughts, I believe on-chain storage is expensive and scarce by design, and large data sets must be stored on similarly decentralized networks, hence the distributed storage. Interoperability between blockchain data and distributed data is also very crucial in building real-world products. So any centralized components must be carefully avoided to keep blockchain technology decentralized. So I believe as the data sets grow and become more manageable, more unmanageable, which is a constantly discussed topic, the reasons for the birth of distributed storage are similar internally and externally to an extent, which is to solve the problem of expensive data and constantly growing data sets. Also, I believe in addition, internally it's a must-adapt component, and externally helps real consumers save when they approach blockchain products.
Yes, great point. So more and more companies are pulling efforts into the field of distributed storage. It is showing great potential, and many have high hopes for it. So my third question is, could you share with us the features and advantages of distributed storage? What are the core competencies that you think distributed storage should have? We still go first with Charles. Thanks.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think the most important advantage of distributed storage is prolonging the lifetime of the content with the much lower cost. Right? For video app developers, we know how costly it can be on infrastructure when you have thousands of new content pieces being created every day to the platform.
Thank you, Charles. So, Justin, would you like to share your opinion as well?
Yeah, I think that distributed storage, like Charles said, it enables these use cases where you can store large assets that aren't necessarily, they're not going to be as expensive to store, and they aren't going to be as vulnerable to bit rot, meaning that things just kind of degrade over time. Information is lost from the internet. You don't have version control and things like that. So I think that the key competencies include persistence, like things enduring for a very long period of time. Versioning is important, the ability to understand what something was yesterday and what it is today. And both of those are important in terms of resistance to like adversaries or like anti-censorship properties as well. I guess I'd also compare it to HTTP. So if you look at the internet today, there's many protocols you can use for storing and retrieving data, but if you look at it from the proportion of traffic, the winner is HTTP by a landslide. The web is really the killer app of the internet, but HTTP has problems, including the fact that it's very centralized, it's location addressed, not content addressed. Anyone can DDoS a site, people can censor sites, you can have accidental loss of data. And so that's the gap that I think distributed storage needs to step in to fill.
Yes, I agree. So Eric, would you like to answer the third question?
Sure. So I believe there are many parts. For example, security, privacy, infinite scalability, community governance, and et cetera. Just to name a few important features BTFS is looking to support and have been excelling in certain categories. But one of my biggest advantages in my mind is still the ownership of data. So most traditional solutions do not provide enough privacy for your data, and it could be sold out to any party without you knowing it, although there are laws governing it, but you never know what's happening behind the scenes. So distributed storage is not only fair, but gives users the power to control them, control how, when, and how much to store on the network anonymously and safely. So second to that, the second advantage is to availability, as also Charles mentioned. Traditional technologies usually rely on central clusters or data centers, which are prone to downtime and failure if provider suffers an outage or human faults from the company or team running the operations. So high availability and cheap mass backups are very crucial competencies in the distributed storage space, which I believe BTFS will also be the leader in this space.
Yeah, that was thought-provoking. Big thanks to everyone for your insights. As an underlying need, storage is essential in the ever-growing internet sphere. Distributed storage, which serves as the very foundation upon which an entire blockchain world is built, is bound to face higher market demands. We expect the stronger Tron 4.0 powered BTFS to be applied in more business app scenarios moving forward. Thanks, guys. So let's move on to panel F.